Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played 11 seasons in the NHL with those New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report, coming to you twice a week to talk all things hockey. And, it was like Black Sunday for the Vancouver Canucks yesterday, Tom. Really cleaned house. Like, we don't use that phrase much anymore because usually it's just the coach. But in this case, everybody got the axe. Coach, general manager, assistant coaches, and still there's talk too about possibly moving out some players in trades. And then right before we went on the air, Frank Saravelli has noted that he's heard that Elaine Vigneault will be out in Philadelphia. So
wow, I didn't see that one, and that's no surprise.
I mean, that's fresh. I don't, we haven't had time to verify that. But Frank Saravelli has been around the game a while. He's from the Philadelphia area, and he, I would say, is usually right in his reports. So I guess we could take him at his, and it's not surprising because the Flyers have played terrible.
And they brought in, they made all those trades to try to bolster especially their defense this past summer. And even going back to last year, where all the rumors, how badly they played, and all the rumors were that it was just a country club there. It's interesting with Vigneault. Obviously, he had some success back in Vancouver. When he came here to New York, I mean, obviously they went to the finals one time, but it really, the team really deteriorated to the point with him where it just really wasn't very competitive, especially after having John Tortorella here at the Rangers and him being such a fiery coach and getting his team to play that fiery game. And with Vigneault, it's just like it was like I almost got the sense that he had quit. He'd lost his fire to coach, and then the same thing happened in Philly. In fact, I was kind of surprised that they hired him in Philly, but that's interesting. I didn't know that one. Wow.
Well, a name that you hear often mentioned is the next coach of the Flyers, because this Vigneault's job security has been rumored for a while, ever since this losing streak started, and that's Rick Tocchet. The timing is good for Rick in that he was just added to, and I don't know, I should, but I don't know whether they call it the Ring of Honor or the Hall of Fame, the Flyers Hall of Fame, whatever they call it. He was just recently inducted into that, which sort of reminded folks how popular a player he was. And of course, you and I both thought he did an incredible job with the Arizona Coyotes. He kept that team competitive, and he did it by playing defense. It was they kept the puck out of their net. They had a decent goalie. Kemper was playing well, and Tocchet said, our best chance of winning is if we just concentrate on that, and he did that. So I think that would be a good choice. I have no idea what the Flyers are going to do, but
interesting there too with the dynamics. So they got Chuck Fletcher in there now as general manager, and he hasn't had. Chuck Fletcher's a good guy, a friend of mine too, and I like him, but he hasn't had a whole lot of success as a general manager either, right? I mean, Minnesota wasn't that great. So,
I haven't been, to be honest with you. I've looked at him and seen that he's been sort of mediocre. Like, he's a very experienced guy. He's been around for a long time. He knows the game very, very well, but it just hasn't clicked for him. Saying all that, I thought what he did last summer in changing up essentially 50% of his defensemen, including adding a guy, and that's one of the issues here. The key guy, you can say all you want about Yandel and Ristolainen, but the key guy, in my opinion, was Ryan Ellis, and he's only played 4 games. So we really haven't seen much of him, and I thought he would have maybe done for Provorov what he did for Roman Josi, which is just give him the leeway to maybe develop into a Norris Trophy winner.
I guess that gives Fletcher a little bit of time because they got to be looking and saying this isn't working. It's not just you change the coach, that's the easy thing to do, I guess, but the culture in that team certainly isn't Philadelphia Flyer hockey, right? If they start talking about a country club, that's not the way the Flyers' history has gone. So,
no, but well, it's interesting too. Jim Benning didn't pull the wool over ownership's eyes in Vancouver. To me, he was the problem.
Yeah. Well, he's got some good young players there, but losing Markstrom was the big thing, right? Like not being able to get him signed, a great goaltender.
Yeah, but I think it goes beyond that. I mean, Markstrom for sure was, should have been able to figure out a way that, but you look at their payroll now, like now they're saying they don't have room on the roster to sign Brock Besser.
Right.
And, if you haven't figured out a way to marshal your funds, to make room for Besser, then you've got a problem.
Yeah, no, good point by you. Good point. But we didn't look at Brisebois down in Tampa, where all the talk was how last year, how they're going to be able to get it done. And I know they got lucky with Kucherov getting hurt and missing the whole season, so the long-term injury reserve for him. But
but you don't hear the Canucks talking about how they're going to figure out how to make it work. What you hear is that they possibly will trade Besser.
Yeah, good point.
Which makes no sense to me. You think back at some of the things, the trades that we've heard about before they happened, and we've had time. Like I remember when there was discussion about, well, they're going to trade Ryan O'Reilly in Buffalo, and I remember talking to you specifically about that. Makes no sense to me. Like why you would trade him. I mean, he was hard to play against.
Yep.
He wasn't. No one thought he was going to win the MVP of the playoffs, but he was a very good hockey player, and that's turned out to set the Buffalo Sabres back in my mind. I mean, that probably, if you're looking for reasons why we're in a rebuild again, that's one of them.
I agree 100%. He's that character guy too, in a team that seems to lack some character too. How about Bruce Boudreau going there as coach in Vancouver?
I like that. He can't possibly be your kind of guy, because players generally like him. What
has he ever done though? Like, I just don't ever. I look at his record and
I find it curious about this, and I think the criticism of him of not winning Game 7s, it's fair. Although I find it curious that what do we always say about Game 7s?
Right.
They're a coin flip. It just comes down to luck, and yet when you don't win them, people say, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, well, I guess you've got a history of not winning them, right? That's the thing.
Yeah, he has a history of not winning Game 7s,
right.
but we just established that they're a coin flip. So
I agree. I agree.
It's not like you can get to Game 7 and you can design it's not like football where you can kind of create a game plan to win those Game 7. You just throw your guys out there and hope that the guys come through for you.
That's interesting. You think about the dynamic in Vancouver there. So they fire the coach and general manager. They hire a coach. Obviously, they have to have a coach. So they hire Boudreau. So now the next GM is stuck with Bruce Boudreau, whether he wants him or not. I mean, for a certain period of time, right?
Yeah.
So,
no.
It's almost like normally what's done is they let the GM fire the coach first.
Stan Smeel, hasn't he been part of that organization for a while?
Yeah, so he steps in as general manager now, but they're going to hire another GM. He's not a GM,
right?
Really. So, but who comes in? But who? I guess. Listen, if somebody wants the job, so who's going to be the general manager? Is their boy Jimmy Rutherford? Are they somebody going to smarten up and hire Jimmy Rutherford?
Well, that makes sense to me, because I don't think they need a Bill Zito, Jeff Gordon style of rebuild there. Yeah. And by that, I mean, we're not stripping it down to the chassis, because we've got some really good young players and we've got some veterans we like as well. Yeah. So what we're going to try to do is what Bill Zito did. He had 6 or 7 really good players, but he changed 14 players on his roster. Yeah. And, he still has Barkov. He still has Huberdeau. He still has some defensemen. Good goaltending. But he's built around it. He went out and got one of the best players in the American League. He went out and got a hard-edged guy. And I think that's what you're going to have to do in Vancouver. And a lot of people don't remember this, but when Rutherford went to Pittsburgh, he did one of those controlled burns as well. Like he had Malkin and Crosby and a bunch of other guys, but he changed about half the roster. Right around the edges, he cleaned up everything and made them harder to play against.
So who else would be a candidate for a GM? Who's out there? I didn't even know who was out there.
Well, Ray Shiro's still out there. I mean,
yep.
I think he's a guy that he won cups in Pittsburgh. I think he certainly knows what he's doing.
Right. So obviously ownership has stepped in to make a move like they did to fire both the coach and GM. The owners are actively involved in that, right? So now, right?
Yeah, that's the point too. That we probably should have made. Like if Bruce Boudreau was hired, I'm pretty sure that isn't Smeal doing that hiring.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's
not on his own. Yeah, certainly not on his own.
Yeah, no. I'm sure it's ownership.
Yeah.
I'm sure ownership, for whatever reason, has got it in their head that they wanted Bruce Boudreau, and it's like playing for your grandfather. I mean,
he has been pretty active on TV and radio too. So that's a good. A lot of those coaches do that to have their voice out there, so the owners hear what they have to say about what they think should be done for coaching.
Well, he's got an incredible regular season record. You go look at the success he's had. It's really, really good. And actually, his playoff record is not bad either. It's just the game sevens. He can't win the big game, which is what everybody says.
So we've got Boudreau already in there. GM, we've got Jimmy Rutherford. In Philadelphia, if they fire their coach, like we think they will, then you've got Rick Tocchet going in there.
Well, I mean, that's I've heard that name. I mean, I have no idea what Chuck Fletcher's going to do, but it would make some sense. I mean, you just talked about getting back to that old Flyer style. Who understands that better than Rick Tocchet?
Totally.
He's the guy that he played similar to the way they played in the 1970s, minus the fighting. Not that Rick wasn't willing to fight, but he didn't fight obviously as often as
AB out confirmed. So this is one of our saying AB is out. So
yeah.
All right. So you've got Rick Tocchet guaranteed going in there. Is that right?
Well, I wouldn't say guaranteed, but that's the name I'd heard. So
then if he can't turn around this year, then Chuck Fletcher's got to be gone during the summer or at some point.
I would think so. Like, I didn't think they were very pleased with him. Although I think ownership must have liked how aggressive he was last summer.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's hard to blame him. And to be honest with you, I love the other trade as well. I'll take Atkinson over Voracek.
Yeah, totally.
All the time.
No, I agree with that move a lot. Yeah, and even though he acknowledged making a mistake on Patrick and moving him to Vegas, right? I mean, that's sometimes general managers don't want to do that when they draft a player and it doesn't work out. So,
yeah.
Who else? Susan Brooks here said something I got to go back to too. She's predicting that Lindy Ruff may be the next coach to go. So AV is already the next. So after that, do you think is Ruff?
I mean, I guess it's possible, but
when they lose Hughes at the start of the year, that's a big loss.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's plausible, but I'd have to think about it. Is there anybody else out there that
Yeah, I try to think. Yeah, it's nice to see you're going to fire him, but then who are you going to hire, right? I mean, listen, Mike Babcock's still there. I don't know if anybody wants to touch him, but he's still out there.
Yeah, he's not a New Jersey kind of guy. I don't think.
Yeah, like I don't think they'd hire him. How about so speaking of firing somebody because they've lost so many games, 11 straight for your Islanders with your good friend.
That's amazing. I watched them too against Detroit, and they just look lost. They're not even the same team. They don't have any bite. They were hard to play against.
Yeah, and that's Barry Trotz. That's Lou Lamoriello. That's the Islanders.
I think it's the lethargy of COVID.
Yeah.
You talk to your friends that have gone through COVID, and what do they tell you? That when you're done having it, you're just worn out. Well, think about Zibanejad and what he went through after he had it. Yeah. He didn't look like the same player.
Yeah.
But they were struggling before the COVID.
Well, they went that long road trip, right? Because they had that new building that wasn't open yet. So they went on a long road trip to start the year. I don't know. I mean, the way they travel now, I wouldn't hang too much on that. Travel is the problem, but.
That's what we like to do. It's selling. We talked about that so much before they went. They wanted that they had it. They must expect it like they're going. So
we got ourselves a bad connection here. You hear me okay?
yeah.
Okay. Somehow I can't hear you that well. A little garbled. How about Tony Granado getting inducted to the U.S. Hall of Fame? That's pretty cool. I played with him out in Los Angeles. He was a real competitor. I like him.
Yeah, I'm on that committee, and I'm thrilled that Tony got on. So you guess how that's went. I really felt strongly that he deserved to be on here, and this is the guy.
Yeah, we're getting a real bad echo here. I'm going to see if I can change things up. How's that?
I don't know. You hear?
No. Hold on one second. I'm going to remove you and then bring you back into the. Hold on one second. Does that change anything?
You're fine. It must be my end. So.
Yeah, we're getting lots of people reporting that a lot of echoes. You can barely understand what you're saying.
Okay. Well. Let me reboot. Join back in. Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. Hang in there. You guys talk away till I can talk about it.
I can't even understand it all right now. There you go. All right, so Kevin's getting off here and try to fix it up. Susan brings up a good point here. And Kevin Dineen, the Dineens have a good reputation. So if Ruff is getting fired there, Dineen could be a good choice. He's in the organization already. He's a gritty guy. I like that. So Terrian out in Philly. Who's Terrian? Terrian the broadcaster? Michael's got all the scoops there that's going on in Philadelphia. So, all right, we're hoping to get Kevin back in here. I just want to make sure everybody did see. Oh, Terrian, the assistant coach. Yes, he's out in Philly. Okay. Thanks, Michael. Thank you very much. Well, that's a big change there, too, because it's interesting how Vigneault's stock has dropped so much. Thanks, Michael. Yes, Michel Terrian. That's right. He's the former didn't he coach Montreal as well? Michel Terrian. Wow, interesting stuff. A lot of fire. It's interesting how sometimes you see where once one team fires some people, coach and GM, it's much easier now for an owner or general manager to step in and fire additional people. It's kind of like, okay, now the precedent's been set. It's not just him doing it himself. Tim White does not like Chuck Fletcher. Listen, he's a great human being, but his record just hasn't been that good. And this team, for Philadelphia to become what it's become there, and again, all the talk about being a country club, that just doesn't sit well. Oh, yeah. Good point by Susan here. Robert Leonard was tweeting last night, I think it was after the game, that he will not be going to the Olympics. He cited his mental health issues and the effects that if he had should be positive test for COVID, how that would affect him mentally. So, it's interesting how he's been very open publicly. And I hope it helps a lot of other people that they can that they see that he is addressing his issues. He's not afraid of it. Hope that helps a lot of the people see if they have mental health issues. And there's a lot of people I talk to in the mental health field now. We talk about, like, there's one quote I heard was there's a tsunami of mental health issues coming our way. So Kevin is back. How are we doing?
I don't know.
There you go. 100%.
Okay. We're good. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, didn't hear anything on my end, so you were fine. So must be mine was screwed up.
We were talking about Robin Leonard announcing on Twitter last night that he has pulled out of his participation with the Swedish Olympic team. Citing
Yeah. What's interesting about that, and this is totally unrelated to, I'm sure, Robin's decision, but I think there is this expectation that even if they do go, and I think they will, that we might see a couple of players from every country elect not to go. Not wanting to end up, getting COVID and having forced to quarantine over there and all that stuff.
I know we disagree on this, and I just really predict that they will not go. I think in the end it's going to come down to the fact of saying, listen, it's just not worth it, especially if it gets worse at all, right, with this new variant.
Yeah. I think it's possible. I think, what I will say is this was a slam dunk before, and now I think it's less of a slam dunk. But in the last week, I've been checking with folks who would know, and what I've been told is as of right now, there's no big drive to not go. So,
yeah.
So we'll see what happens. And
all right. Did you see? Actually, Susan's on fire today with her information. Did you see the 5-minute major on McDavid last night?
I didn't see it. No.
I saw it this morning, and I was really surprised that he got a 5-minute major. He was just now the player's back was to him, so the player that he hit was facing the Los Angeles King player was facing the boards, but it's just like McDavid just kind of cruised by him and barely touched him. And I'm not suggesting that the player looked like he was really hurt. I'm not suggesting he was faking it all, but man, it wasn't much of a hit. It was from behind, so I guess technically it. I think the player got hurt on it too. So.
I'm wondering too about that. The call, the mandate to call cross-checking from behind. Yeah. Maybe I just didn't notice it as much because it had become so much part of the game. Yeah. But it seems like it's happening more now that we're punishing it than it did before.
And it's really a strange play because we were always taught. I mean, obviously, if you get your hands out and you're cross-checking somebody, you run the risk of taking a penalty. If you're going to cross-check somebody, that gets your hands in closer to your body, you can still like little jabs against the player.
But they're still calling that now. I've seen that they're calling the little jabs now. So
yeah, but I'm just surprised. Really kind of odd how that crept into the game. It was there before, but I just don't recall it being that much before.
Yeah, but it's funny. But now that we're calling it, I've noticed it more and more.
Yeah.
And that's the way it works. So like the. The butterfly effect, every time you change one rule and you correct something else kind of happens that you weren't counting on. And then you don't even notice it right away until it becomes a major problem. So
that is true. Cruising report. Susan's on fire. We're going to get her on the show. The player that got hit came back and scored the first. They scored 3 power play goals in the major, I think. So, and the player got hit, came back and scored the first one. So that's the problem with me. Like, if you really watch the play, it really wasn't that much at all. And it wasn't even, I know you're bringing up cross-checking, but this wasn't even a cross-check even. It was just a little bit of the shoulder in the back.
Yeah, the Lions won.
That's right. Yes. And didn't the coach dedicate the team ball to the victims?
Yeah, the Oxford the victims. That's just it's a strange situation. I will say the state has really stepped up and embraced the idea of what a tragedy that was. And everywhere you go, like there's been discussions about Jeff Blashill was very emotional, the Red Wings coach, talking about it. And it's pretty big here in Michigan. There's no doubt about it.
Definitely. Obviously not as important to me and my ego, but did you see my cooking show from yesterday?
I did. I didn't listen to it. Was that chicken?
No, that was cod.
It was fresh cod. Okay, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. The rice really looked good. It was, so I just didn't listen to it. But
how about I went a little hot yesterday too, so I used the celly salt, the fire bin celly salt. So I put the generous amount on there, so it was a little bite to it, and then I drizzled on top of my Brussels sprouts some honey that somebody gave me that's got a little spice to it as well. Oh, nice.
Yeah, the Brussels sprouts. Yeah, I like Brussels sprouts.
Now I have to admit, I'm going to admit this publicly. All right, and don't chastise me. Please don't judge me. Okay. So I went to Costco, and for months now, Costco makes this pre-made macaroni and cheese, homemade. It's basically a homemade macaroni and cheese, but it's pre-made. Just throw it in the oven. And I've seen it over and over. It's got tons of cheese in it. I shouldn't buy it. And there's one guy working there yesterday. I started joking around with him. I said, "Okay, you make the call. Should I be buying this mac and cheese or not?" And of course, he said yes, like a good salesman does. So I bought the mac and cheese, and I had mac and cheese as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yeah. You started down that road with the potatoes.
I know. Well, but potatoes aren't as bad as I thought because I put them in the air fryer. It's just a low-fat carb is what it is.
Yeah. But you were very dedicated to not having potatoes, and then all of a sudden, and you open that door.
I know.
The starches just come running in.
See, I asked you not to judge me, but maybe it's a little bit of tough love you're giving me right now, right? I mean, like you're.
Yeah. I actually think you're fine. Eating it. It's like anything else in moderation. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with drinking. Like if you drink like you did when you were playing in the NHL, that's not good.
It's not good.
But it's not. I mean,
I can't even do that anymore, man. We used to sit around and drink like 20 beers. And it's like,
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Oh,
Well, that's what I always tell people is that, I'm not much of a drinker anymore. It's not that I abstain. I certainly have a drink now and then,
Yeah.
but I don't drink the way I did. And what if people have asked me about it, and I said, well, I drank in the '80s, and it's not the '80s anymore. So it's time to.
I can't even drink. I couldn't even drink as much as I tried. I got to fall asleep now. That's the thing. It's like I'll have a couple of drinks.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, you get up so early, like
that's true.
You are required to have. I read we've talked this before, but I read a story about the longest sleep study in the world. It's been going on for more than 40 years. It's in Sweden, and they've been following people. And so many of them in the study have passed away. But that's, they really want to sort of pay attention to what it does for longevity. And they've concluded thus far that the optimum amount of sleep is between 6 and 7 hours. And people who sleep less than that and sleep more than that. And they found that the people who actually sleep more than that are the people who are in the most trouble. Like
really?
Yes. Yeah. So that's what at least that's what the story said. But
when you say in trouble health-wise, what's the issues if you sleep too much? Like, is it overweight, obesity, something?
Yeah, I don't know. They just have a lower life expectancy.
Oh, all right, interesting. But I just for me, like if I get like 5 hours of sleep, I feel better. Like if I get too much sleep, it's like I don't know what it is.
Well, yeah, we used to joke about our dog Rocky, who lived to be 17 years old, I may add.
Yeah.
Who, the more he slept, the more sleep he needed.
Oh.
Like if he slept a long time, he'd get up and then he'd have to go nap again because sleeping would wear him out.
That's tough sleep. Yeah. Whatever happened with the other dog and the neighbor, or the issue with the neighbor?
Well, I don't have a dog anymore. Is what happened. So. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's a kind of a sad thing. We rescued. That dog, and so we just went back to the rescue, and it became a judgment call. I mean, first, like the neighbor basically said, if he comes in our yard again, you won't have a dog. So, we were. It's hard when you have grandkids; they keep opening the door, and the dog gets out. So, yeah. So, and people, people in Michigan have guns.
I know.
I
told you a story growing up on the farm where we had a neighbor with the rabbits, and the same thing. The neighbor said, "Listen, if the dog comes here again, I'm going to kill it. This is my livelihood." The rabbits.
Yeah. No, that's So it's sad. And I miss my beast. So. Yeah. But we had to do what we had to do, and
what are you going to get? Like a cat or a parakeet or something like that, or?
I don't think we're going to have anything. So
nothing.
No, I don't think so.
How about our Rangers too? We got to touch on our Rangers. Man, they are playing well, and they got the Shesterkin big loss on Saturday night, I guess it was, or Friday night. They had a big loss. Shesterkin got hurt. Looked like he hurt his groin. They're saying he's out for a week. But Georgiev, the young goaltender, has kind of been struggling. Came in and played, and has played pretty well, at least in one game so far. So,
I mean, the Rangers have played really kind of like we thought they would. I think everybody was kind of high on them. Coming in, we saw enough of them last year to kind of know that the window was opening for them, and they have a lot of good young players. I'm not surprised at that. I mean, for the most part, there have been some teams that have disappointed. But
Colorado, for one, I had them way up on the stand. I know they got a lot of injuries, but man.
Yeah, and I still think it's early for them. And you know what I think their problem is? Goaltending. I don't think it's good enough. I think, when you start talking about how teams got to make a move with goaltending, everybody talks first about the Oilers. I would talk about Colorado. And I'm surprised at that because I like Kemper. I thought he did a really nice job in Arizona. But he really just, their save percentage ranks, not as high as it needs to. What
do they do that? Who do they go out and get?
Well, there's been a lot of discussion about Marc-Andre Fleury. So,
oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, and Marc-Andre Fleury's playing well now. You look at his numbers over the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years.
Because they don't think they're going anywhere. Get something for him.
Well, it's going to be hard to make up all those points.
Right.
And
they basically just took on the contract. They really didn't get anything for him, right? When they got him from Vegas. Remember that trade? They
Yeah,
didn't get a whole lot.
Who didn't get a whole lot?
Chicago didn't give up a whole lot.
Right. I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you can trade him and get a, probably a significant asset.
Yeah, like you get a second round draft, even if you get like a second round draft pick for him. I mean, you gave up nothing to get him. Your team's not going to go anywhere this year. It doesn't look like it. So
Yeah. Jonathan Taves still doesn't have a goal, by the way.
Oh, is that right? Wow.
Yeah, unless he got one last game.
Oh.
So, it just has rust on. Well, you don't play for a year.
That's true. So the Greenwich women's high school hockey team got off to a good start. We had a scrimmage against the Greenwich Skating Club outdoor game. We won that game 2-1. And then we had a jamboree. They call it jamboree. We played 2 20-minute games against 2 different teams. We played 2 good teams. We didn't do as well. We're going to have a hard time scoring goals. So the coach and I are trying to figure out how to manufacture some goals. So,
how many goals did you get in the jamboree?
1 in 2 games. We got lost 2-0 and 3-1, and we had a hard time getting out of our own end. So of course, me being a former NHL defenseman, that is my responsibility to clean that up. So we got a game tonight again. We'll see if we can correct things a little bit.
What are you working on to get that?
Well, it's these are high school girls, so it's not that skill level. They're really great at making tape passes. So we're trying to get them to learn to make those indirect passes more and skate into the play. And again, we just don't have natural goal scorers, so we're trying to have that shoot low, go for rebounds kind of mentality. So
right.
3 goals we've scored so far in the season or the start, they've all been those kind of goals. So onward and upward, right? So,
well, the chaos theory is always in vogue with that level of hockey, where you got to get some disruption at the net and look for clean things up around the net.
Right. Like we're trying to teach them to shoot. It's funny because this is one of my favorite plays when I played, is high off the glass, coming out of our zone. Get the forwards to skate into it.
Yeah.
I think in the past, everybody's trying to teach the young players, rightfully so, how to make, good tape-to-tape pass, but we just don't have that skill level with our team. Great girls are fantastic. Their work ethic's incredible. But
Well, I mean, it is. Yeah, it's an art. And even at the NHL level, like the best teams are the ones where it goes in the zone and then it gets out of the zone almost immediately. Yeah. Almost immediately it's out. Yeah. And I think that's the key. And that's a skill that you can kind of teach.
And the part of it is, it's a big part, especially the jamboree. We played 2 really good teams, Darien and New Canaan. And I think our girls kind of went into the game, or some of our girls went into the game thinking that we had no chance of beating these 2 teams. So there's a psychological thing that they were kind of defeated already before we started. Not all the girls were like that. And again, they're fantastic girls, and they do their work ethic, their desire to learn. We tell them something, they really try the best to learn it. But
How'd you score your goal?
Rebound. So girl that scored 1 goal on the first game on Thursday night also scored the goal. So she shoot at the net, went for the rebound, especially shooting low with these are bigger goaltenders, so their feet weren't as good. So shoot low, have them rebound, pop out, and then score on the rebound. So
yeah. All right. Well, look forward to getting your reports on your team as we move through
definitely
the season. So what league are you in?
The FCAC, Fairfield County Intercollegiate Inter FCAC Federal or Fairfield County Inter Athletic Conference. I think it is. Yes.
Has there been a preseason poll about how you're expected to finish?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know about that. Yeah, I'll find out tonight. See if there was a poll.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Our head coach, Brooke Karen, she played college hockey as well. I can't remember what she played, Wesley or something like that. So she's pretty special. She's a good player. She's actually very good and good coach. She's got fire. So we're going to play. It's the good guy or good cop, bad cop. I get to be the good cop on this team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a role that you probably struggle with.
It is funny you say that. It is. It's so funny. We had the game on Saturday night and Friday. And this one player wasn't doing what I was asking her to do. And I said, no, this is what you, and I kind of lost my,
You lost your good cop badge.
Yeah. I had to ask for it back after the game.
That's pretty funny. That is pretty funny.
Yeah.
The Florida Panthers, Barkov was injured and they just keep moving along, boy.
And they lose the coach Quenville too. A lot of people felt like he was part of the reason. I think he was, but you're right. They just kept on winning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was looking at the standings. So they've got the best winning percentage. The second best winning percentage in the league is New York Rangers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they're playing well. They're playing well. I just did a column too, and I don't know why I'm intrigued by this, but I am. Generally speaking, I think people like sports because it's black and white.
Yeah.
There's no gray. I mean, at the end of the game, especially in the NHL where there's no ties, you either win or you lose.
Yeah.
You might be able to get an extra point, but you're either a winner or you're a loser, and that's the way it's. And that's the way we almost want to approach trades too. I'm always amazed that, if the fan base wants you to analyze that trade in 10 minutes after it happened.
Yeah.
And they don't accept the idea of, well, we might not know for years who wants this trade because of the prospect. No, they want to know right now, right now how that works.
Right. And isn't it funny too? If the fans that don't like a certain general manager, they're going to find a way to rip that trade apart no matter what, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I thought it was interesting because I thought about this the other night. There was 3 goalie switches that were all loosely connected, and that is the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Detroit Red Wings. Mm-hmm. So the Maple Leafs decided it was time to move on from Freddie Anderson. They wanted to give Jack Campbell a chance to play. Yep. And they thought, he was a better option than signing Freddie Anderson to the kind of contract that he wanted. So they moved off of the Freddie Anderson. Really didn't have much of a negotiation with him whatsoever, if any. And they said goodbye. Now, Jack Campbell has been fantastic.
Yep.
So they're happy with his trades. And fans don't like it either when GMs say, both teams did well. They got the player they wanted. They don't like that either.
Yeah, I know.
So the Maple Leafs are very happy that they got Jack Campbell. They're not worried about Freddie Anderson.
Right.
Meanwhile, the Carolina Hurricanes, they wanted to improve their goalie. Yeah. And they said goodbye to Peter Mrazek. And then they traded young Alex Nedeljkovic to the Detroit Red Wings.
I remember people were very critical of that.
Oh, yeah. People weren't happy in Carolina.
Yeah.
But it's hard to be better than Freddie Anderson's been in Carolina. He's got a .928 save percentage. I think he's only lost 4 games. He's played really, really, really well. The Carolina Hurricanes are happy with their goaltending.
Yes, very true.
Okay. Now we go to the Detroit Red Wings. Yeah. Detroit Red Wings, they give up a 3rd-round pick to get a 25-year-old goalie who's now their goalie of the future, who started this season 8-3 with a .930 goal save percentage, goals against average below where the Red Wings were expected to be. They're real happy with their goaltending. So you have 3 teams that are all kind of loosely connected who got new goalies based on decisions that other teams made. And all 3 of them are happy with their goalie.
Right.
Now, but if we got a panel of fans and we asked them, they'd start talking about Freddie Anderson's playoff record and how, that you can't trust Jack Campbell because he doesn't have a track record, and Nedeljkovic is, plays the puck too much. He gets himself in trouble, and, they'd have all kinds of things. But
how about our good buddy Don Waddell in Carolina too? So he goes out and it was the free agency offer sheet to, what was his name?
Kakaniemi.
So he gives the offer sheet. He does the goaltending moves that you just outlined, and he brings in Tony DeAngelo, the terrible Tony DeAngelo, who now is a Norris Trophy candidate too. So
man,
there's some gutsy stuff.
Well, and then go back even further. I mean, a lot of fans blame Donnie Waddell that the team's not in Atlanta anymore because the team is never any good.
Yeah.
So the idea that fans would have flocked to it, which I don't believe. But
and the issue there was the owners, once they bought the team, they started suing each other all of a sudden more because of basketball stuff. So yeah.
Well, it looked like he wouldn't be a GM anymore because he was really good as a team president.
Yeah,
did a real good job there, and he was a reluctant general manager. Like when Tom Dundon said, why don't you just do the job?
Yeah, totally. It's true. Yeah. You're there
Yeah,
anyway.
Don just said, I'm doing fine as president. And, presidents don't get fired usually.
Yeah, that's true.
So, he was happy where he was. But, he took it on because he's a hockey guy first and foremost.
Yeah,
and took it on, and he's done a really nice job.
Absolutely.
Real nice job. So
here's I didn't realize this. Barry Shelley is reporting. What are your thoughts on Kane? He's brought down to the AHL team there and has been watching. He has not played a game there yet. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Wow. That's kind of, that career is winding down. I mean, I guess that he's going to get paid, but that's interesting. And Susan, well, she asked a question here again. Tom, does it bother a player more to lose the way the Islanders did last night, tie it late, than lose? You know what? Especially when if you're in a losing streak like that. I don't think I was ever in a losing streak that long. But I think every loss you have as it continues, especially with a proud organization, some proud players. I mean, the bulk of those players went to the semifinals last year. So I would think that every loss now makes it even worse, more embarrassing. Especially, and it's even worse here in New York when the Rangers are playing so well too. If the Islanders are not playing well, then the Rangers get better.
Yeah, that shootout loss was here in Detroit, and that was the first time in like 12 games or so that they being the Islanders, had scored 3 or more goals.
That's right.
We were only getting 1 or 2, so they finally get 3 goals, tied up late, and then Moritz Seider, the top rookie defenseman, in overtime scores from a real sharp angle and beats the Islanders. Well, you would have thought the Islanders would have risen up, tying that game late.
Yeah.
They had some momentum, but no. Seider's really a remarkable player too. I don't know if you had the opportunity to watch.
I haven't.
But I made this observation to Blashill the other day and see what he kind of thought about it. But you look at the number of points he has, and it's a significant number. I think he's got maybe 15 or 16 by now. I've kind of lost track a little bit. But, he's right up there around, getting his points. Well, he hasn't done anything dynamic mostly to get those points. Like, he's just piling up the points by just playing the position because he's so good at what he does. And, like, he makes just good first passes. He gets his shots on net, creating rebound opportunities. He makes the right pass at the right time. And, next thing you know, he's got 15, 16 points. But they've been in overtime a lot. Right. And when they get in overtime and it's 3-on-3 and we get people off the ice, he is very dynamic.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. He's two completely different guys. Like, you watch him in overtime and you start to see, hey, this guy will weave and bob and stop and turn, and took 2 shots that were just incredible precision shots.
Right.
He's going to be an unbelievable defenseman.
How old is he now?
He's 20.
Wow. Ooh, nice.
He's 20 years old, and he played like I don't know. I remember I was talking to another general manager about him who had seen him a lot, and he was remarking that. He said, I haven't seen Seider get within 15 feet of the net. And, he will, because we've seen him do that in international, where, he'll move deep into that slot and rip that shot. And he wasn't really doing that. He's staying out by the blue line, doing his thing, making sure that, he's not giving up. And you know what? The other thing, too, is I think one of the hardest things for defensemen, and you're the right guy to ask whether this is true or not, is to play a 2-on-1, trying to decide how to do that. And I've watched him on 2-on-1s. He just plays them perfectly. He's
a young player too. Yeah.
Yeah. He just, he stays in the middle. He watches, he senses, seems to have a feel who the goalie's taking. And at the end, he seems to make the right choice. So,
I like that with him.
Impressive.
I like that a lot. All right. I'm trying to think of my lunch actually right now. That's what I'm thinking about. I got all kinds of leftovers. I guess leftover chicken, and I get that macaroni.
You got that leftover macaroni and cheese.
I know. I can't do it.
Well, but you can't let it go to waste. That's one of my.
It is a big thing too. It's a big, like 5-person meal kind of thing. So
yeah, well, you'll be eating it for a week then.
Yeah. So it reminds me of the old days with the Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like every 3 months, I had to go get Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I couldn't just buy a 3-piece meal. I had to get like the 20-piece bucket. So after I'd eat chicken for a week, I wouldn't want to eat it for the next 3 months. So.
Yeah, but you haven't moved off that. You still haven't had any Kentucky Fried. How long has it been since you kicked that habit?
Oh, it's been 2 or 3 years since I've gotten away from that. Yeah. No, yeah. I've been pretty clean with my diet, but still, there has been some glitches there.
Yeah. Macaroni and cheese is not the end of the world. So,
yeah.
So anyway,
all right.
Well, we appreciate everyone listening and working through our audio issues. But if you want to read me, I'm at DetroitHockeyNow.com and HockeyBuzz.com.
And again, if you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports, and we'll be back on Wednesday. We see who else gets fired by Wednesday. We'll see for somebody else. Talk to you. See you guys on Wednesday.